We're back, episode 27 of the Football Pod, and I have to put my hands up to everybody at home. I am very sorry. I let the side down. I let the team down. We had no show last week. We had no podcast.
Here, I was getting the blame for this.
I'm sorry, Patrick, if you were.
Pointing the finger at me. Your man's away on holidays again, and for once, I can confirm I was on the island of Ireland all of last week. Checking my phone for a pod update. All I could see was Tommy sunning himself.
Oh, I felt bad about
drinking
it.
cocktails, a lot of cocktails. That's all.
A lot of cocktails, seen a lot of cocktails. That's true. That's
frozen margarita boys. They're my downside. So yeah, listen, I got a couple of DMs now, and the tone of the DMs were all the same. Paddy Andrews never let the side down. You didn't give Paddy a week off after a stag. All the grief you give Paddy all year long, and it's Tommy who lets him down. They thought Andy might have done it.
Hey, Roddy Collins even did the pod when he was on holidays.
From holidays.
From holidays. Yeah.
I got home from my stag. I was back in Ireland about what felt like about 45 minutes and recorded a podcast with Rory.
You weren't great, no. You weren't great.
Wasn't my peak performance? I must admit, probably not. I was more energized than other pods. I'm not going to lie to you, but I made it happen.
People should go back and watch that episode on YouTube and just keep an eye on Paddy's face throughout it. You can even scroll through it. Scroll through the fast forward bar and watch him deteriorate as the podcast went on.
It was a long one as well. It was a long one.
Apologies out of the way, lads. I hope you're well, and I'm all refreshed. I haven't got much of a tan. I've got a bit of a colour on my arms here, but it's the same really as any farmer's tan. Have you had a good couple of weeks? Busy.
Yeah, it's been crazy, but it's been good, and it kind of settled down this week, which was nice. So it was good. I was disgusted. Like if Ronaldo in Dublin, I didn't go to see him. I couldn't believe.
I was there. I got to that. I seen the main man. I seen him.
I was sitting at home watching the game. I was like, "What am I doing in Ballahadreen here? Not in Viva." But anyway, listen, it was a good couple of weeks.
Looked unbelievable. Yeah, even the weekend of sport there was unreal. You didn't make it in for the All Blacks game, Paddy, did you?
No, I was at the soccer on Thursday night. All right, so I seen the main man. I could have went to the rugby, but I was actually getting a suit fitting with my groomsmen and my dad and my fiance's dad. Wedding. Get married in 3.5 weeks, lads.
Wow.
This is the key question now, Paddy. So you've retired. You went to a suit fitting. The last suit fitting you probably did was probably the All-Ireland final, 2020. Yeah. What are the sizes like? What is the waist?
The same. Honestly. Yeah. And with a few Paul Flynn was there, Darren Daly, one of the Dublin coaches now. Yeah, I've been keeping relatively in shape somehow, despite all the holidays and enjoying a few pints. I'm not too bad now. Yeah.
It's your bike row ski.
Bike row ski ambassador, lad. Do 3 or 4 of them a bloody week.
Are you?
Oh, an animal. That's the only thing keeps me going because I'm not doing any football training as you both.
5-a-side and golfing.
Yeah, I have to keep the pounds off somehow. No, so I didn't get into the All Blacks on Saturday. I'm not flogging any books like Andy. I've seen him on the tour around Ireland, doing some big sales, some big numbers for you on that book, Andy. Judging by the promotions of it.
Yeah, all I see is every time I take a photo, I think I'm getting the carb face is hitting me more and more every time I look at it. I'm like, Jesus.
You need to change your camera angle.
Yeah, no, I'm in the car too much.
My dad, and then college is a bit busy at the minute, and my job is very busy at the minute now with coming up to year end and stuff like that. So, lads, it's been a hectic couple of weeks for me, so I didn't get into rugby, but I did get to see CR7 in person yet again.
You weren't gonna miss that. You were hardly booing him though. You weren't one of those that were booing him.
Blasphemy. That's blasphemy. No, I wasn't booing him, and he nearly nicked it for them at the end as well. But it was a great occasion. Do you know what, lads? Just class to get I know the numbers aren't great COVID-wise, but just seeing a full house in the Aviva, the atmosphere and stuff like that, and even watching the rugby on telly on Saturday evening, just a savage atmosphere around again, and you're just hoping that they can kind of get a handle on COVID numbers and things like that as well. Because as good as it is seeing everyone back in the mix, it's not trending in the right direction for us, unfortunately. So we'll see how that goes out in the next couple of weeks.
No, and it was an amazing experience, I'm sure, for a lot of those young Irish footballers and even the young Irish rugby players who haven't got to experience what it was like playing. Yeah, absolutely. So, listen, not to be flogging any books here, but over the holidays, I got stuck into Liam Hayes' autobiography. Out of Our Skins, released back in 1992.
He wrote that when he was
92?
still playing. He wrote that
Lads.
when he was still playing.
Lads, he wrote that when he was the Meath captain. Off the back of the epic 1991 season.
Yeah, yeah.
And Meath had obviously drawn with Dublin 3 times and bet them with that Kevin Foley goal, one of the greatest goals ever scored in Croke Park.
I remember it.
And then you had, off the back of that, you obviously had the All-Ireland final against Down, where Meath nearly come back from the dead. Colin O'Rourke and pneumonia.
10th game, wasn't it?
10th game that year, nearly like Mayo's 27. Quite similar, actually, to Mayo's 2017 season.
Wasn't it?
10 games.
Both lost.
They
An epic
played
journey.
10 and lost. Tyrone played 10 and 05 and
Yes.
won it. And then Andrew and his boys played 10 in 70.
Yeah. But lads, this book caused a ruckus when it was released. And I actually know that there's, you know, the book that I read was a 20th anniversary edition, so little bits were kind of edited and rewritten, and there was a bit of perspective put in. And I know that in the months after it, Liam actually retired about 3 or 4 months after this book was released, and I think his relationship with Sean Boylan was affected for a couple of years afterwards, and he actually stopped going to watch Meath games in about 1995 for, I think, a long time. You're talking maybe 15 years he stopped going to Meath games, like, so he kind of broke his connection with the team there. So it was really nice reading it back, and you learned so much about it. But there was just a savage part.
Why did he do that? So he missed 96 and 99, like.
Yeah, I
He
didn't
just wasn't even watching the games on telly, just totally.
He watched them on TV, but he watched them in Lucan, in his home in Lucan, where he raised his family. So he just, his connection to the Meath football team had just kind of died away with his own team, which I suppose is, I'm sure there's a lot of players that resonate with them, that their own team is gone and there's a new team coming in. So, but one of the things that stood out in it is there's an amazing segment at the end where he talks about the end of that great Kerry team. So Boylan's Meath, that first Meath team, are coming in off the back of Micko's great Kerry team, and there's a segment.
Yeah.
Late
Late 80s,
just before the Meath Cork rivalry takes off in 88, 89, but it's just, he savages the Kerry boys for hanging on too long. It's unbelievable. It's just, when you read it back,
these days now, yeah.
and he compares it to a Hugh McIlvanney article when he followed Muhammad Ali towards one of his last fights, and how difficult it was to watch Ali getting beaten by a journeyman. And he just said it's always hard for the greatest to vacate their own altars. And for the Kerry boys, some of his players, those who held on to O'Dwyer's every whim with both hands and refused to let go, even when their own bodies petitioned to be released, they limped away from the greatest sports story ever told on this island. A handful of them possess muscles and bones which may not dutifully serve them throughout the remaining years of their lives, and that's a pity too. But we shouldn't pity them. They knew good times, great times, and their only error was that they never wanted them to end. It was hard for them to leave the arena where friendships and egos and business careers have been built. It's always hard for the greatest to vacate their own altars. And then he talks about Ali, and he says, those Kerry boys, they took their time and they paid their dues with those final 4 defeats. So, like, I don't know if any of the Dubs are reading.
Some rider, wasn't it? And he was.
Some of the Dubs got out. You know, I don't know whether it'll be a 30th anniversary edition, whether Liam Hayes will be rewriting the words about the greatest back then. But you know, like, it must be difficult to walk away that kind of moment when you're in there. You know,
I've always said it. Any player, whether it be Dublin team, the great Kerry team, the great Kilkenny team, and hurling, it's a personal decision. Andy said it as well, and I know we've a guest on this week who stepped away and probably missed out on, after years of service, missed out on his county's probably one of their greatest days as well. But it's such a personal decision, and ultimately, you know yourself. And some guys are ready to accept that. Some guys go early. I'd always do the example. I remember Alan Brogan retired for us in 2015. One of his last acts as a Dublin player was to score an amazing point against Kerry in the rain to win the All-Ireland there in 2015. And there's no two ways about it. Alan Brogan could have stayed on and played another couple of years. We obviously went on. That was the first of the 5 in a row. But he wanted to get out at the time. I left, finished myself. Paul Flynn, a very good friend of mine, left and missed the 5th of the 5 in a row. Like, each player will know there's family circumstances, there's professional circumstances with work and things like that. It's such a personal decision. And from the outside, you can look and say, yeah, he should go. And you could say, on the flip side, you go, geez, your man had 2 or 3 more years left and he left. You just don't know. And all you can do, as I said, when I made my decision, and I know, Andy, when you stepped away yourself, and be interested to hear what our guest says, you just sound out a few people who you really value their opinion, whether it's your current teammates, whether it's your ex-teammates or coaches, obviously your family or your really close mates, and just go, look, I'm thinking of doing this, what do you think? And I wouldn't be going asking the moon and the stars and asking everyone for it, because you'll get different opinions and things like that. It's people who you trust. And to be honest, some people will say, I think you should stay on because they think that's what you want to hear. And you're like, I don't want to hear that. You want nearly give it to me between the eyes, and they'd say, yeah, man, like you should go. And then ultimately it's a personal decision. But it's funny, that's very eloquently put from Liam.
Very
Hayes.
well.
Liam is obviously one of the most talented journalists in the country.
Exactly, he had a leg up to do it. Like.
Yeah.
He had a column in the Sunday Press every week, and I think during that epic Dublin saga and those Cork games, he was writing about the Cork and Dublin teammates, and he speaks about going on holidays to Canaries, and the Cork boys would be there, and there'd nearly be a war in the sand. And I think, I'd have to dig out.
What a unique situation! Like that must have been like there's no one since. In that scenario, where they're a playing GA player and writing,
he's a unique individual, though, isn't he?
You hear
I know, like I've met him 3 or 4 times, but like he walks into the room, you take notice of him. No doubt.
A lot of that main team are like that now.
Yeah, he's a big unit.
You hardly read that book, Andy, did you? Because there's just.
I just
plagiarism in Andy's book. Andy's just copied and pasted a lot of.
I'm telling you, because there are some similarities in the way that you speak about.
He's been caught,
but
he's been rumbled.
No. Here's one of you all Ireland.
Plagiarism checks there. I actually got to read both of them over Christmas.
Yes. I charge you double. Good.
But he'll sign
I'll buy the book. I'll give you a dig out. I'm not looking for freebies here. Like, don't get accused of that too much anyway, as it is. Like.
No, but I'll tell you a good one, right? So we were playing. We've talked about Tony McAtee in the pod before. Like, and Tony is just. I'd say himself and Liam Hayes now wouldn't be to be cut from the same cloth, to be straight down the line, you know.
Yeah.
McAtee say to you like if you're coach now, and I say this in jest and fun because I have a good relationship with Tony, and we always had a bit of crack. But he'd ask us, "What are you hanging about? What are you hanging around for?" To me, I'm 33, 34. What are you hanging around for? He'd look at you like, and you'd walk away. You'd have to kind of shake yourself off and
in the middle of training, like in front of people.
Just after training or something.
I had a few frank discussions with him myself, Andy. Now during the club scenes, and
that's a man we need to get.
He wouldn't mince his words now, I have to say.
No, Tony definitely doesn't. But
I like him, Bert, though. I love the honesty of that. I love a person, and sometimes it's not you don't deliver right, but it's just boom between the eyes. You know, the old boy was a bit like that now.
Really?
Oh yeah, straight between the eyes.
Well, listen, that's my Mead mention out of the way, and I suppose I learned a lot about Joe Castles, which was a massive thing. You know, what an epic footballer back in the day. Probably passed someone like myself by a little bit. You know, I was born, you know, a little while after all those great teams. So, listen, we're going to talk a little bit about the club action really, really quickly before we get our new guest on, or our special guest on today, Cian Mackey. So, Cian Mackey is a former Cavan footballer, 15 years of intercounty football, won 2 championships with his club, Castlerahan. But last week, he was man of the match in the Longford senior final as Mullin, his new club, his adopted club, won another Longford title. You'll all know Mullin from that epic Leinster run 3 years ago. But before we get to that, Andy Moran, Mayo football, always in the news.
Always.
Oisin Mullin has signed a contract with Geelong Cats in the AFL. What an amazing move for the young fella from Kilmaine. Kilmaine's the club, isn't it?
Kilmaine is the club, yeah.
Yeah, and that one of the last interviews I remember watching was they were beaten in their semi-final a couple of weeks ago, and you can see the blood in his mouth as he's talking to the Mayo GA Instagram channel. And he's given that, you know, they just lost, I think, the Mayo Gales in that semi-final, and you know, he obviously signed a deal with the Geelong. I'm saying that, pronounce it right. Geelong, but it was in the mix, I think, for the last 2 years. You got 2 years out of Oisin, but we got to see how good he was.
Yeah, and it just shows you when you get chances in All Ireland finals, you have to take them because all of a sudden time doesn't wait for anyone. We got very lucky in a way. One of the good things from COVID is we probably held on to Oisin for 2 more years than we should have. He wins Young Player of the Year and an All-Star in his first year against Dublin and Paddy's last year. And then this year he gets injured, and it was a very tricky year for him, but he was having a great year up to his injury, you know.
Oh, he was.
But what makes it more, I suppose, more difficult for Mayo fans is the reality is that time is catching up on, like, just catching in on your Liam Hayes article. Time is catching up on some of our great players, like Lee Keegan at a tour de force this season in the semi-final and final. But Lee is 33, a father, a husband. You know, time is catching up there, and all the other guys. I suppose Killian's injury, Aiden, and when your best young player then that's coming through in a long time, himself, Ryan, Tommy, and they're just gets cut off. It leaves a massive dent. And the problem is that he goes, but it probably, like, in the next maybe year to 24 months, some of them other great players might go as well. So that gap becomes harder to fill then. And you don't produce a Kieran Kilkenny, for example, or an Oisin Mullin. You don't produce them overnight. Like, you know, they take time, takes a lot of work, and away he goes. And massive loss for his club, but we all wish him well. We love the fella. He's a really, really good guy. Joe, but he's made the look, the image, the attitude, the athleticism. He's made for professional sport, isn't he?
Absolutely.
From the other thing as well, Andy, you're looking at, like, if he doesn't go, he's taken on the mantle from, like, Lee is still there and an amazing year, kind of, like, say, towards the end of the season. But guys like Keith Higgins and Downey Vaughan and I know Colin Boyle is still there. And as they move on, Oisin Mullin was going to be, for the next decade, the leader of Mayo's defence.
So Paddy.
Along with Paddy Durk. And you already seen, like, say, 2 amazing years. Obviously a bit frustrating from this year, and then the All-Ireland final, there was it was probably a little bit rusty and things like that. But you could see an absolute leader for the next 10 years for Mayo.
Yeah.
And nearly making it seamless that you're losing a core of iconic defenders that was such a strength for Mayo, that Oisin Mullin and Paddy kind of carried the mantle there, and it wouldn't be as bad. And then to lose him, and that's the challenge for a lot of counties around Ireland. The lure, particularly after now, like, say, COVID probably kept a lot of people in-house, and you see the impact Conor McKenna has when he comes back. Dublin had it obviously with Cian Kilkenny. When counties lose players like this, it's like, if you're a supporter, it's a brilliant opportunity, and I wholeheartedly support the guys to go down and do it. What an amazing lifestyle opportunity it is to go and do that. But if you're a supporter or you're a coach, you've got to be disheartened. You know, like, we're hanging our hat on this guy.
Yeah.
And it's gone like that. And not only for his county, but for his club, for Mayo supporters. But look, like, an incredible opportunity. 2 brilliant, like, particularly in 2020, young player of the year and an all-star. What an impact. And just a bitter blow for James Horn, I'm sure. And you look at, you've had it before with someone like Pierce Hanley as well, who we touched on before in this pod. Kieran Donaghy was on only a couple of weeks ago explaining Kerry got a year or 2 out of Tommy Waltz. They won in All-Ireland in 2009, but imagine he didn't go and he stayed. You know, would Dublin have started their kind of decade of dominance if Tommy Waltz was still there for his best year? It's such a massive impact for counties, and not just like for every county. Like Mayo, one of the biggest counties, it affects all the counties.
I always questioned how Meath, like, not questioned, but lamented how Meath couldn't keep a hold of like a prodigy like Conor Nash. Like, Conor Nash was a fella who was in the Leinster Rugby Academy. They were mad to get him on a professional contract, but I don't think Meath could do anything at that time to.
He was going to be a superstar no matter what he did. No matter what sport he played, he was going to be.
How do you tempt a fella like that when you're kind of doddering around in Division 3 and Division 2? And then you had Cian McBride, another young lad, go over and is trying to make it over there. And then you hear when Conor Glass comes home and he wins that club championship last week at Glen, and he said, like Andy, Conor Glass said, I wanted my AFL career to be 10 or 12 years. Like, that is the... Look, it's hard to tell what way it's going to go. It's very difficult for players to make it when they go over there. But a lad like Oisin Mullin, you don't know how far he could go.
He could go huge, but I think what's key for him is the club that he's went to. He's went to Geelong, and a girl from the old ladies team is over there, Rachel Cairns. Obviously, Zach is over there, Mark O'Connor is over there. That gives
good contingent there from already.
A good contingent. His age too. Like, what has always struck me about Pierce Hanley is Pierce goes over there at 18 years of age.
Yeah.
Right? And stays there. Now, Begley was gone. Colin Beggs was probably gone about 2 years after Pierce went over, I'd say. And Hanley stuck it out and made a career for himself. Like, that is unbelievable. If that wasn't sport now, if that was just business and you were going over there, making a career over there, and by 30 you'd done what he had done and stuck at a career that long and going over at 18 years of age, Joe, you'd be in the business post, like, you know what I mean?
You're a baby. You're 18.
you're
You're an absolute baby. Whereas you go over at maybe 22, 21, 22. Those, you can have huge development over those 2 or 3 years. Whereas at 18, you're coming out of secondary school. You haven't been to college. You don't know anything.
No,
you think you know things, but you don't.
And you make it. So I just think with Oisin, it's going to, like, he is 3-4 years there where he can elevate his career. He can go after it. Them guys are going to look after him. Zach Tui set the marker for them at the club. They're a real competitive club. They're right up there. And I've said this before, I rate footballers in kind of percentages, the top 5%, and an athletic form and strength and power and everything that you need.
Hey, and looks. He's got the X factor.
The best looking man. Imagine that man in the best, and the pink boots and the hair and the ponytail. But he's a top 5% athlete. And the point Paddy's trying to make there is that your Mayo, you produce possibly, if you're lucky, 3 or 4 of these every 10 years, and he's one of them, and he's gone. And we've lost 2 in the last 20, which is hard to take.
They're the margins.
Yeah.
Listen, best luck to him. Amazing class.
Hey,
great to see it.
As a person, as a young fella, as a human being, he's an incredible, like, this is why I think he can do whatever he wants, because he's like, I know I sound like a dad now when I'm going to say this, but
you are a dad.
He's got manners. Like, he walks into a room, there's no airs or graces about him. He walks in, he fits in with the group, and he's just absolutely brilliant at kind of everything. Like, he's just one of those guys. So listen, he can do whatever he wants in the world, and fair play to him.
Can't wait to see what he does next. Right.
Get him on the pod, Paddy, or Tommy.
Hoping to.
Tommy, come on, will you?
Let's see what happens. That's what this last 5 minutes has been about. I'm just going to send it on to him. See if we get on. Anyways, crazy weekend in the club finals. We're getting Cian Mackey on in the next couple of minutes just to run through a couple of the big results. Carfin have been beaten again. Mount Ballymaloch, led by Val Daly. Incredible win for the Black and Amber. Another club in Black and Amber, Crossmaglen, were beaten by Clonairon and Armagh. A sensational comeback. Conor Turbot, I don't know if you remember Turbot coming off the bench for Armagh against Monaghan. Oh, he was outrageous, but he had a big impact on that. Drumore with the McNabs, Lizard and Magpie McNab, they won the Tyrone Club Championship the weekend.
It was destined to be, really, wasn't it? Like,
really was, yeah. And Tullamore, they got rid of Road after a replay. Big win.
Fair play to them. That was some comeback.
Isn't it unbelievable, lads? You look at, like, probably from our generation, that the absolute pinnacle, like Road, kingpins in Offaly, and then Crossmaglen and Corofin on the national stage in terms of hoovering up all Ireland titles. And it just shows that, and look, we touched on it in Dublin in the club championship with St. Vincent's are out, who won a couple of All Irelands, relegated to Division 2.
Yeah.
Amazing how even the biggest clubs with the biggest traditions, the cycles just kind of come to an end. And
it's fascinating.
It's unbelievable, even at club level, that, there's an infinite period there where these group of players come along at the one time. Like Corofin, I remember some of their All-Ireland victories, and I had struggled to see a club team play at the level they were playing at. And now, they're struggling to win even their own county title. And Crossmaglen, obviously, that iconic team. What was it, 13 or 14 Armagh championships in a row, 6 or 7 All-Ireland. Unbelievable run. And it just shows everything comes to an end, even at club level, for the biggest clubs in the biggest counties as well.
Clonairon were the big dogs, I think, back in the 50s and 60s, but it's 50 odd years since they won a county title. But like, Cross had an aura about them. Do you know what I mean? Whether it was Armagh or was beyond. So like, we had Radvilli winning in Carlow, John Heslin with a late free to send the Westmeath final to a replay. And then down in Cork, you had the semi-final between Castlehaven and the Bars, and it was live on the Examiner Facebook page, I think. But it went to a penalty shootout again, lads. But what's worth pointing out in this game was the shootout between Stephen Sherlock and Brian Hurley.
They were going for top scorer, weren't they? They were going for top scorer between the two.
Both chasing top scorer. I think Sherlock was just in front. Sherlock ended with 210, and Brian Hurley scored 2-9. Like, I remember the headlines were on John Heston scoring 216, and I think it was a semi-final before as well for Lomans. But like, crazy scoring, unbelievable stuff. Listen, I think it's time to get our main man on. Cian Mackey is going to join us next. We're going to have a bit of fun. So this is the part where I tell you to subscribe to the Football Pod if you haven't already, but I'm sure you have. And sorry again for messing up last week.
We're back. We're back, baby.
We're back. All right, you're very welcome back to episode 27 of the Football Pod with Paddy and Andy. Paddy Andrews is with me, Andy Moran is with me, and I'm not quite sure how to introduce our special guest this week. What I thought I would have led with Cavan footballer Cian Mackey, but I think I'm going to go with the reigning man of the match in the Longford Senior Football Final. Cian Mackey, you're very welcome to the podcast.
Good to be here, boys. Good to be here. I could go under a couple of different aliases. They're probably two of the better ones I could go under, I suppose.
Two of the more favourable, Keane. Yeah, you're dead right.
Yeah, without a child friendly, we'll say.
Longford champion, how does that roll off the tongue?
Look, at any championship, I suppose, is a good championship, but look, a senior championship in Cavan and Longford, it's not bad to have, and look at Mullinachta are good lads, so it's a good feeling to get about a good bunch of lads, you know.
Yeah, what a group to roll in with. Like we all remember Mullinachta's run through to win Leinster, and was it back in 2018? The
Beck Croaks, yeah.
The Beck Croaks, yeah.
In Parnell Park as well, yeah.
Unbelievable. What was it like rolling into, like, you obviously came from a setup like Castleran where you'd won 2 championships in recent years, and was it 18 and 19 you won your 2 Cavan senior championships?
Yeah, it was. We were trying for a long time in Cavan. We actually got dubbed the name. Andy might like this, but we were the Mayo of Cavan. We were dubbed at one stage because
Paddy, you have manners.
I'm not saying that to you. I'm not saying that to you.
How many had you lost?
We were after been in the county final in 11, then 15, 16, 17, lost them all by a point or two. And then we won 18 and 19. But look, coming from a setup like Castleratton setup was outrageously professional, you know. Dolan Kyogan came in 17 and kind of gave us that extra bit of professionalism and kicked us on. But going into the Mullinachta setup, it was like nearly just the same thing, I suppose, because they were coming off a Leinster win, so they knew what it took to go on and win championships. So like it was an easy fit, you know. Like I'm probably blessed because like my girlfriend could have been from any sort of club, you know, anywhere. But happened to be from the Leinster champion, so like it worked out nicely when we moved over there, you know. So it's
I'm sure they're half Cavan down there.
I could have got a junior club somewhere really, really bad, but look, it was just nice.
You landed on your
feet. Well played.
You landed on your feet, exactly. And just could you explain to us, because my joke got cut off by the Zoom there. I said that they're half Cavan anyway in Mullinachta. Could you explain the connection, please, between Longford and Cavan on the border there?
Yeah, see, Gowna, who are also in the county final there in Cavan, it's a half parish. So technically they're the one parish, but they're in 2 separate counties and 2 separate provinces. So there's just a bridge and a river that splits the 2 up. Like Mullinachta would be a very small parish, and so would Gowna, but Gowna would be slightly more populated with a village there, whereas Mullinachta is just one pub, a church, and a school. You know, that's wow. All they've got. You know, but that's the connection of the 2 of them. And look at they could have had 2 county champions meeting on the bridge. That was all the talk around the area, meeting at the bridge with the 2 county champions. Like I think it was in 2007, Mullinachta won the intermediate and Gowna won the senior, and they met on the bridge. It was a big thing for the parish, but just Gowna fell short, unfortunately.
Yeah, they should have probably did it the first day. The Gowna boys shouldn't have the few missed chances at the end, you know.
Yeah. Look, they missed the boat. Some would say, because they had a couple of glorious goal chances, and look at credit to Rammer. Rammer's keeper, he saved both of them, you know. And look at Rammer came back and probably just that bit more. They were in county finals in 16, they won, and then lost in 19. So that bit of experience probably helped them over the lines, you know, and probably a bit of inexperience for Gowna. But look at Gowna's very young. They had a couple of 17 or 18-year-olds playing. So look, they'll kick on. They'll have plenty of medals in their back pocket come their 30s.
It's funny, we were talking about some of the fallen giants, and I suppose the cycles that come around in sport. When you look at the likes of Corofin losing at the weekend, and Cross being beaten by Clonera, and Vincent's being relegated down to the Senior B, isn't that right, Paddy, in Dublin Championship? Can you explain to us how a parish that's as small as Mullinachta, or even a village, half a parish like Gowna, with a village and a couple of whatever, like how do you get the levels of, I suppose, qualities to such a level?
Well, in Mullinachta, I can speak for it's families. We'll say there's like 5 McGilligans there, and like one of them is the chairman. There's 2 Rogerses, 2 McGivneys, 2 Matthewses. Like there's brothers there all at the same age. And look, it could go a very barren spell when all them brothers are gone. There's not a lot of youngsters around the area. at the moment. But
That's what you were brought in for.
yeah,
That's it. We're all about the checkbooks now. They're being bankrolls, bringing in the big dogs. Like,
but well, my lad's only 4 months old, so I think wait for that one. I got his age wrong in an interview the other day. I said he was 3 months, and I was told fairly quickly by the missus that he's 4 months.
Yeah,
Better get it right.
Lack of sleep, you lose a few months there, Cian.
Yeah, without doubt. I wasn't told it was this hard when I was told we were having one.
And you've settled in nicely down in Longford, and I know it's not too far from home, but you got in with the team and with the lads quite well, the group there.
Yeah, well, look, I would have knew them over the last couple of years before I even moved down there. Like I was back living at home when I was first going out with Amanda, so I would have went out with them on nights out and their sound.
Good icebreaker.
Yeah, you get to tell everyone what you think of them when you're drunk, I suppose. That was an easy one. But look, they're down to earth. They're the same as, look at every club team is the same. Once you're in with a group of lads, they're all bang on. But everyone from the outside mightn't look like that. But once you're in with a group, they're all spot on.
I loved Michael Verney's Twitter thread at the weekend. He was talking about yourself winning county championships in different counties. It's a smashing honour. Like, there isn't a huge amount. You could probably list them, I suppose, in a Twitter thread, and I'm trying to dig it out here, the amount of players. One of them was Frankie Dolan, who was man of the match in 2002 for Ballymahan back in 2002. So he was the last. I read a Longford Leader piece the other day, the last outside player to win man of the match in the Longford final. So it was a big accolade that they bestowed upon you. You must have played well.
Yeah, look, I don't know. There was a good bit of slagging on Monday when we were having a few beers. I was been called Frankie Dolan because he came, won one, and then left. But that's kind of the slagging I was getting on Monday. But I think there's a lot more in Castlerahan there. Like, we had Sean Brady, and he won with UCD and Castlerahan.
Okay,
and then
UCD would be a big one. Yeah, a lot of people.
Hill and Castlerahan as well. So that within Castlerahan, there's 3 men now that have club honours with both Castlerahan and someone else. But I think UCC have a right few as well.
Yeah. Oh, well, I don't know. I know. I see the colleges make a big difference there, don't they? With different lads going in with them. I think James McEntee has I think he won an intermediate in Meath and a senior in Cork in the same year, or something like that. Or he was definitely close to one anyway. Niall McNamee is another man with a medal with UCD. Kevin Cowell won senior medals in Gael Column Kills in Meath, Mullingar Shamrocks in Westmeath, and Nemo Rangers in Cork. That's
great. Jeez.
Yeah, so look at it. What an achievement. So well done on that, and best of luck in Leinster.
A previous guest, Rory Gallagher, as well.
Well, how can we not mention Rory? What a run that man had around the country.
Yeah, to be fair. He's about 5 or 6, does he?
Cavan. He played one league game in Cavan with Chris Law, and then that was it.
Did you play with Rory?
He's like Zlatan. He was just going around every year, club to club.
Did you play with Rory in Cavan?
I did, yeah. Rory was a phenomenal footballer. Great kick pass with the ball, and a great ball winner. Probably didn't have him for long enough around Cavan, because as regards helping younger players, you see him now as a coach, So if Cavan could have held on to him as a player for maybe 3-4 years, he would have benefited young lads around the place. I was young when he was there, and you have to listen to lads like that. But just it shows how he has it upstairs. He's gone on to be quite a good coach, and he actually coached us a couple of times with Castlerahan, and his training sessions are top drawer. So
he had Paddy from the age of 13 or 14. So Paddy was his protege growing up in Bridget. So he
on and off the pitch.
The carnivals.
Yeah, good times.
So Cian, it's been a successful couple of years at club level. So you're clearly keeping the body taken away, going on. When it comes to intercounty retirement, back in January 2020, BC, before COVID, I'm reading a piece you did with Brendan Crossan in the Irish News, and you said, where is the quote? I'm after losing it here now. Cian Mackey announced his intercounty retirement last week and says he's looking forward to taking random holidays and attending a few more stag parties.
Yeah. It didn't go according. I did get New York at Christmas that time, and I got Edinburgh on a stag with Stick Meehan from Cavan Gales, and that was a good stag party. But that was really it from the start of that. But I timed it to very close to the worst perfection you could ever retire. But
it's the same myself, Cian. Don't worry. The grandest plans was just want to go to this, and you spent.
And you went to every single one of them.
That's only over the last 3 months. First 15 months of COVID, they're sitting at home going, "Boy, God, they should have hung on, dragged the arse out of it for another year." Like, but no, not the best.
How did you find that transition, King? Because I know Andy obviously retired a couple of months beforehand. Andy made his time in a bit better. Andy retired the week before Dublin's 5-in-a-row game against Kerry, so he picked his moment in August. How did you find the transition to finishing up with the group and leaving the WhatsApp group and finishing up with Cavan football? Because it was 15 years.
Yeah, look, you'd still be in contact with all the boys, like within a county group, like you're in it so long. Anyone that's there over 4 or 5 years, like you're fairly close with, and look, you'd still be in full-time contact with them, and they'd be spot on. But probably this transition of actually coming home and not having to go training or not having to go to the gym, and then after maybe 2 months of it, and you start to get fat, you're like, I have to actually push myself to do something here, and that's the big difference, having that little bit of drive before the club season starts to actually do it. Whereas when you're with Cavan or Dublin or Mayo or whoever, you have to be there. You have to go. If you're not there, you're called out, So it's that was the biggest thing for me. I kind of got, the feet were too comfortable on the couch for maybe 6 or 8 weeks. But look, you do miss it, even when, like, I done it and then Cavan went on to win Ulster. Like, so
yeah.
For me, like, you'd have the green-eyed monsters. I told the boys, like, you're envious of them 100%. Like, you'd be lying if you said you weren't. But you're still a Cavan supporter at the back of it all. So for Cavan winning is still brilliant, But look, it was one of them years that you just didn't know what was going to happen, and it just worked out perfect for Cavan supporters.
What was it like, King? Because I know we touched on it coming up to, Andy, particularly this year with Mayo, having beaten Dublin in the semi-final and watching as a supporter, and hopefully Mayo could have won the All-Ireland against Tyrone in the final. And I had it myself earlier in my career. I missed out. I remember watching Dublin win in 2011 where I was on the squad, and then it wasn't. So you'd had kind of the guts of 10 months from retiring in January to Cavan ultimately going on and winning the Ulster Championship, beating Donegal that day up in the athletic grounds in Armagh. What was that like? Had you kind of come to terms with it by that point, or was it like Cavan weren't expected to win that game against Donegal? What was the feeling watching it initially? Relief, joy, like say a little bit envious to a point.
Look, definitely envious, but the whole Ulster Championship that year, I was doing a bit of work with the BBC, and it was just a roller coaster. Like, we should have been out the gate at half time against Monaghan, came back and bet them. Down should have had us out the gate at half time again, came back and bet them, and then we were kind of ahead of Donegal, and we were playing our best football I've seen us play in maybe 15 or 20 years. And then Donegal started to creep back in, and I was just like, oh no, this can't happen to us. We're after doing this to 2 other teams. This can't happen to us. But it was just a roller coaster of a match, because it wasn't over until maybe the last 2-3 minutes.
Well,
when I think
until Big Garrod got that ball, bombed it into the air, and Patton punched it into Conor Madden's pat.
Yeah, and Big G wouldn't be a man for a big long kick. He's usually like a good man to be calm and cool on the ball, and it was just kind of like, get it in there. And that worked for Cavan the whole championship. When they were under pressure and their backs were against the wall, they were losing by 6 or 7. They just let it in, and the same thing happened in the Ulster final. But I remember when the goal went in, I had the headphones on me, and I went to kind of run, and sure, near took the head of myself, But it was an emotional time, like, for everyone, like going into that game, like, my heart was saying Cavan, but my head was saying, how do we beat Donegal? Like, Donegal, All-Ireland contenders, everyone was saying. Cavan weren't even Ulster contenders at the start of the year. And we were after getting bet by 7-8 points the year previous by Donegal. So, like, I was trying to figure out, how do we match these big physical men? They're huge, and I couldn't see it as much as I wanted to see it, how we'd win. And then we just came out and we played outrageous. Like, as I said, I haven't seen Cavan put in a 70-minute performance like that in my recollection of football. Like, it definitely wasn't done. We play well for 35, 40, and then we let these teams come back and beat us. We never put in my time playing against a big team, a good 70 minutes like them men put in that night in Armagh. It was brilliant.
It was totally deserved, and I remember, because it was my last couple of weeks with Dublin. I knew I was going to be finishing up after that, and we were playing the winners. The following week, we won the Leinster title, and to be honest, we expected to play Donegal. I think everyone was kind of tipping that Dublin were going to play Donegal. And that sense, as well as Cavan were playing, you always just, I remember watching it because it was the same day Tipperary win a couple of hours beforehand and when their Munster title, and I think, Jesus, what an incredible story this could be. And I just got the sense that Donegal were going to eke it out. Just by the time that down the stretch, Micah Murphy or the guys, they pull it out of the bag and then the goal goes in for Cavan. And what a spectacular day for the whole championship with Tipperary and you guys winning the same day. But it was that you looked at the game as a whole, and I know in our preparation for playing Cavan in the All-Ireland semi-final then in Croke Park a couple of weeks later, it was totally and utterly deserved. It was a phenomenal performance. But that, you look at it and I'd say from that high for Cavan and for Tipperary and then what's happened to them since this season. Do you have any sense of, again, kind of from the outside looking in, what was the massive change there for Cavan to have arguably one of their greatest days in recent memory to win the Ulster title, and then the following year to just be so flat, to ultimately be relegated to Division 4, along with the reigning Munster championships, Tipperary. It's such a drastic change in only a few months.
Yeah, well, the way the league was, we'd say you had we played Longford, Fermanagh, and it was Longford and Fermanagh, and we bet Longford and lost Fermanagh. Like, we could play Fermanagh 10 times, and like, it's always tight, no matter how good we are, how bad they are. It's a local rivalry, or vice versa. And look, they pipped us. I think it was by a point that night, and then we went and we bet Longford, and then we went and lost the next game and put us into a relegation dogfight against Wicklow. Yeah. You know, and that was kind of, if it was a full league campaign, I firmly believe Cavan are a Division 2 team in my head, without a doubt. But like, it was just one of them things, like the whole thing the wheels just kind of fell off at one stage, we'd say, and then they lost to Wicklow. But the Wicklow game was the same as Cavan against Donegal. I was watching the game on a stream and I was like, Cavan are going to win this. We were losing, but
we were talking about it the week leading up to the game. Exactly that. Just going, it hasn't been a great couple of weeks for Cavan, but they were the reigning Ulster champions. They're not going to lose to Wicklow and be relegated to Division 4. And that was the consensus, and obviously it didn't turn out that way, you know?
Yeah, it's just, look, it's one of them times. That's Cavan's problem, we'd say, for over my generation of playing. We could mix it with the best, but then we could lose to the weaker counties, you know? And that's the problem where the middle tier of teams are. Like, all the good teams, we'd say, the Mayos, the Dublins, the Tyrones, Donegals, they very seldom lose to the weaker teams. Very, very seldom, like 1 in 100. Whereas the middle teams, like the Meads, the Cavans, the Monaghan's, you know, they can always lose a game. Like, I remember Monaghan lost a championship match in Clones to Longford. And that was after, I think, Monaghan could have won the Ulster title the year before. Do you know, if that was a Tyrone or a Dublin, they win that game by 7-8 points. You know, I think that's the big difference between the top teams. They don't lose them games, and the middle teams. And I don't know if it's a mentality thing or what it is, because you can up your game to play Dublin, Mayo, and then next of all, you can lose to, no disrespect to any of the Division 4 teams, because we're one of them now, but we go and lose then to a Division 4 team. So it's just kind of, I think that's the difference, the gulf between the top 4 teams in the country to the middle and then the lower teams. It's a hard one to figure out.
Well, I think the strength and depth could be a big thing then as well.
It is,
like that. You're looking at, sorry, I'll let you know, but look,
no, I was just going to get it. Like, not only you, Cian, but Moyna, McVeigh, a few others left just that year as well, didn't they? And then all of a sudden, when you are in them fights, you might go on a great run like you did in Ulster in 2020, but then in 2021, where you need that consistency of performance, 1 or 2 might get injured, and then you're struggling, you know?
Yeah, well, that's it. But the Cavan have like a big squad of 33, 34, and maybe lacking that bit of experience, but like, still the quality is still there. Like, it's baffling to think we're a Division 4 team. Like,
tell me about it. I need to
there week in, week out.
Andy's plotting your downfall.
Leeds are out to play Cavan next year. I'm like, get up to Division 3. I'm saying, right? Yeah, but it's no, it's a tough one. But just on yourself, Cian, like, you were synonymous with the team. You kind of play like your love for football. Did you have like when you were a young fella, sporting wise, did you play different sports? Did you have any great coach in your club, or was there anyone that kind of instilled that in you?
Well, my thing was, I remember I just loved playing. I wouldn't have liked watching football when I was younger. I just liked playing it, whereas now I've kind of more of a grasp of watching football and stuff like that. But I would have loved every sport, like rugby. I wanted to try and play Everton. But then when you get a wee bit older, you're going to have to pick and choose what you play. But I would have played a lot of soccer and rugby and that. And look, at Gaelic came to the fore. It always kind of is. There's pressure put on to get you, if you're anywhere good at all, to keep you on board. But
like yourself and Marty Riley would have played a lot of soccer. Like Marty obviously had trials obviously at Burnley. He was over in England. Did you play? Who'd you play with in soccer?
I would have played with Ballyduff, obviously, and then
Yeah.
I would have played with Home Farm with Martin as well, and then I would have played with Monaghan United and Armagh City. But
great club, Monaghan United.
You played with Monaghan, did you?
Great club, though.
He signed a contract with Roddy Collins, and then he.
It was a deadline day signing for Monaghan there.
He'd an annulment.
I went over budget. They blew their budget on me, and that was the end of it then. So
there actually was a lot of Dublin lads playing with Monaghan at the time. There wasn't many local boys now when I was there.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
And where are you used to playing soccer, King?
Sorry?
What position you used to play in soccer?
Probably winger or up front, or kind of. I was kind of a jack of all. I was put in anywhere really. But
number 10, no?
Yeah, kind of a bit of a number 10. But I believe soccer and basketball, you could tell a lad who played a lot of soccer when he's playing Gaelic, or a lad who plays basketball.
100%.
Pure spatial awareness. Like when you play soccer, you want to face the play. When you have a lad who's played, his first thing is to turn. Whereas a Gaelic player he wins it and he runs out an extra 3-4 yards. Whereas basketball players, their backs to the sideline. Soccer players turn and open up the pitch. For me, watching matches now, you'll be able to say that lad's played soccer or that lad hasn't. I think they're huge sports that the GAA needs to learn from, and Dublin definitely do a lot with basketball coaches, by screens and stuff like that from them playing. It's
yeah.
The dog in the street could see it, but it's
not every dog could see it, Keane. You'd be surprised some of the teams.
Well, I know that, unfortunately, yeah. But it's things like that, that help sports go on. And when you say coaches, it's coaches that bring different sports in to help a team on are unbelievable for within a county.
Would you have had that in Cavan?
Not as much, we in Cavan we need someone to bring in something brand new that no one else, we need to be the one to, if we want to kick on, we need to bring in something new. Donegal brought in the blanket and everyone copied it. Dublin then brought in their style of play and everyone tried to copy it. It's time for someone now to bring something new. And look, it could be absolutely anyone. But look, Cavan have had great managers, great coaches. We had Peter Donnelly with us, Marty Corey at the minute. They're fantastic coaches and brought Cavan over the last 10 years on tenfold. Cavan were in Division 1 a couple of times over the last 10 years. So Cavan football has progressed hugely from where it was maybe in the early 2000s,
Yeah, you would have seen that progress throughout your 15 years as well. In terms of your own style as a footballer, Keane, I would have. I'm a Mead Hill man, so it's actually right on the border of Kingscourt. So I would have gone to a lot of Cavan club games over the years, and I can just when I think of you as a footballer, you covered a crazy amount of ground on a football pitch. But it was the deft touch, it was the point that you kick, it was the stopping and slowing down and picking out a pass. Clearly, and I know from listening to you here, soccer and basketball had a big influence on that. Your ability to kind of pick a pass or slow a game down or play, even be a playmaker on a Gaelic football pitch.
Yeah, well, look, I love the kick pass in the game. I love it. I think there's nothing better. Kieran McDonald was one of the best ever at it, But a kick pass is a thing, a beauty, And if you can put a kick pass through to open up a defense, is better, and easier on the body than running 70 yards to try and get in the end of it, So I probably, coming later into my career, probably started to go, I believe, as a player, you have to change your way of playing maybe 3 times within your career if you want to play over 10 years, because the game changes, your body changes, So when I started, it was all about pace, and then as I got older, I was right, you have to do something different here, Cian, because you're not as quick as you used to be. So then you have to start bringing a kick pass into the game. And I think that was the thing. You kind of have to realize that.
Was that keen on that? I think that's absolutely spot on. But was that something you realized yourself? Because or was that a coach has sat you down and said you were out of the team, maybe you're dropped for a game, you're going, geez, I played for 5 years, why am I dropped? And a coach kind of triggers that moment for you. Or did you just have it yourself? You go, look, I reviewed how I performed in last season's championship or that game. I need to tweak it myself, because it's brilliant if players can do that, but not every player has that kind of self-awareness or that analysis of their own game to realise that.
Now look, it could have been, I don't remember a coach saying it to me, but it could have been said to me in a different way that triggered something with me going, yeah, something has to go on. But I'd be self-critical at the best of times of my own game at times. Now, some of the boys would say different. You'd be cocky in the dressing room and acting maggot, but at the back of it all, if you want to be good, you have to be self-critical, because if you keep talking about one or two good things you've done in the game, one or two good things isn't enough, So if you can remember every good thing you've done in the game, you're not doing enough of them. So I'd be critical. So I kind of would have said to myself, like you're not beating this man for pace anymore. Like lads are just as quick as you now. Like that kind of triggered with me going, right, I can't just run alongside a fella and then cut it across his run. That game is gone. So then it was kind of like, get stronger, get better at kick passing, get
any tips on getting better at kick passing, Andy? I know you want to come in there, but is there anything in particular, any little tricks if a fella's at home or a girl's at home now thinking of the off season and improving their kick passing?
Just keep kicking. It's practice. There's no like any great science to it. Like it's the same as a free taker. If you want to be a good free taker, you practice frees. Like if you go into a pitch, get a corner forward in the corner and just go, look, I want to kick ball into you for 20 minutes. It's helping you and it's helping him, and you can do that for 10 minutes after training, 10 minutes before, and then you start getting better at kick passing. But like all the good teams do all these kick passing drills all the time. Yeah. So you just have to do that extra to maybe get the vision in and see the passes.
The thing I would say to you there about adjusting your game, I believe it's from playing different sports when you're younger. Because when you go and play Gaelic football, and I'd say you were a smaller player when you were younger, were you?
I was a whole small.
Yeah, so yeah. So
you joined at failure level. That was the end of it.
That's what I was afraid of. But you play when you're smaller. But then you go playing soccer and you might be the best player. But in Gaelic, you might be a different sort of player. And if you go playing at an age where you're 14, you might play 16. You need to adjust it a bit slightly. So I think from playing different sports when you're younger, it actually teaches you have to adjust each game, because we all played soccer, we all played Gaelic, played a bit of rugby, handball. You could be the best player one game, and then you could be just the squad player in the next game. So you need to adjust all the time. And I think it's a mentality thing where I think playing underage sports, like Cian going up to Home Farm there when he's a kid, like you're not going up there being the big dog. Like you have to fit in. You need to work your way around it, see how you're going to kind of manipulate yourself to get into the team. So you're always kind of thinking. I think it's a trained skill as well. So I'm not sure if it's coach or if it's Anthem, but definitely underage playing multiple sports helps that taste.
Cian, random one for you. Handball is a massive sport in Cavan, obviously. Is there any other sports? I know you mentioned rugby there as well. There's no other random sports that you would have been fairly good at. Pete
Donnelly used to tell me you were a rat on the table tennis team.
Who told you that?
Donnelly used to say you used to be taking 50 pences off everyone.
It's tight to get a 50 pence piece off a Cavan man now, but we used to play it. We used to in the army barracks go before matches, and it had to be taken away. It started to get heated. There was matches going on, and lads were getting agitated, and you could be going to a league match and bad doing with each other over this table tennis. Yeah. Definitely.
You played as a younger. You have a club up around there or something when you were younger or something.
Yeah, there's a club here now. I would have preferred to play soccer than the table tennis, but I would have went and look at. I was middle of the road. I would have ran after Everton, even like if it was gone away, I'd run after, be falling. And you wouldn't really be meant to be falling playing, but would have played it. Like Ronan Flanagan was exceptional table tennis player, exceptional.
I was in DCU with Flanagan.
He won. I think he won Malsney like as a cub as well. Like he was brilliant at as well. But I don't think he played when we were playing in the barracks. He just knew he'd take too much money off everyone.
Cian, It's Blessington up next, isn't it? In Pierce Park. Is it next Sunday?
Yeah, next Sunday, 1:00. Yeah.
1:00.
Yeah.
Right. Well, very best of luck at that on your Leinster club journey with Mullin.
Yeah.
Brilliant to have you on the football pod this week. Thanks so much for taking the time and joining us.
No problem at all, lads.
Great to see you, Cian. All the best now going forward. Take it easy. Thanks a million.
Cian Mackey there. It was a rapid fire interview with Cian Mackey. He was brilliant, the former Cavan footballer, to take the time and chat to us this evening. He's in the middle of his Leinster club campaign with Mullin Knockta. Jesus, I can barely get the words out today.
Tough one.
Paddy Andrews is still with me. Andy Moran is still with me. We've got about 90 seconds left. And I just want to read out a headline because I called out a couple of club final results there. It wasn't an exhaustive list, but it was close to it. And Andy Moran pointed out to me that I missed the headline of the weekend. This is in Belfast Live. Kickham Craigan's end 67-year wait for glory in Antrim as Sam Maguire adds the icing on the cake. Sam Maguire scored a late goal for his club as they won their first Antrim Senior Football Championship title since 1954. That's pretty epic.
Meant to be. It's meant to be.
Written in the stars, that one.
But Jerome Quinn does a few interviews
He does.
on his page after that game. Unbelievable. There's some of them that just have a go and search it. They're brilliant.
Jerome's work is top class across GA. He brings some of the best stories out there. One line I wanted to put to Cian, I never got the chance to was, and I just, you can give me a yes or no on this. The GA is too obsessed with GPS stats. Is that fair?
I think it's being challenged a lot more now. When it first came in, I know I did, even myself as a player, you felt like you had to run the hard yards because that was what you're being measured on. But it's so much more in depth now, and I think the best coaches and the best teams understand it's just one part of the overall game. Because when I first came in, you had lads running 12K in a game. They touched the ball about 4 times.
Yeah, the quote was...
It was a unique thing that came into GAA. I know Cian would have had some absolutely outrageous stats because, Jesus, he reminds me of Kieran McGeary, who we touched on this year with Tyrone. He was that type of player. I think definitely there's an understanding now. It's a part of the overall game. Yeah, you need to, depending on where you are on the pitch, you need to put in the hard yards, but it's one aspect of a really good performance to go with everything else that you need, your strength, your use of the ball, how you read the game. There's so many different aspects to it now.
Will the Leitrim boys have to be worried about Andy Moran looking at the numbers?
Between 5 and 12, maybe.
Between 5 and 12, yeah, that's fair.
I'd say they will for January anyway. They're going to be on some serious hard yards there around Carrick and Shannon for the first 4 weeks of the year.
Yeah. Listen, lads, thanks very much for joining us this week. Great to be back. Great to have you back on the pod. And thanks very much to everyone for listening at home. This has been episode 27 of the Football Pod with Paddy and Andy. Cian Mackey was our special guest this week, so I hope you've enjoyed it. Paddy Andrews, best of luck with your wedding prep over the next little while.
I'm off. I have a busy evening ahead of me, lads. We're good to catch up again. Andy, we're back. We're back, baby.
Best of luck with the book signings and everything else that's going on. I know you're a busy man too. Thanks, boys.
Good luck, lads. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.